Like, I will always play Warlock. Always. It will always be my main. No doubts about that. It will always be my main. But I will obviously give it a go, much like I've done with every other class in World of Warcraft ever. So, yeah. To answer that. Andy, who's next? The Wounds champion. The Wounds. Commando Rick. How you doing, brother?
Hey, man. What's up? Good to see you here. This is gonna be our first conversation, I believe. And I gotta say, man, that beard of yours, wow, spot on. I'm trying to grow out myself one, but unfortunately it's kind of a failure, so I'm going with the homing instead.
I appreciate you being here, bro. Let me just turn you up a bit, because I think you're quite quiet.
Oh yeah, I got this Blue Yeti mic, costing me quite a penny, but goddamn, it's kind of pain in the ass to try and like adjust the volume on it all the time, especially when you try to like make recordings of videos and stream it. It's like,
yeah,
god damn it.
I've never had a Blue Yeti, so I can't really comment on whether or not it's good. But I'm very happy to have you here, bro. So what is the topic or question that you have for me?
Yeah, so as you know, like the whole World of Warcraft Next expansion is great and all that stuff, but one thing that I always hear about Ian, especially, and other developers saying things like, oh, we can't implement housing because of the like engine restrictions, oh, we can't implement this and this and that.
Yeah.
And it's like sometimes you wonder, well, when are you finally gonna change the engine? In like the next 5 years, in the next decade maybe? Like, don't you think it's about time to maybe change this stuff about right now? I mean, come on, guys, your reputation is pretty much in the gutter. Well, almost the half the gutter, but yes, maybe it's time to change a little bit things more drastically, maybe? I mean, yeah, if you look at Final Fantasy XIV, they said, oh yeah, our engine is also old, but don't worry, we're gonna upgrade it in the next expansion, and you already seen like the graphical changes and things like that, and it's great to hear. But from World of Warcraft, it's almost like not a peep, almost.
All right,
it's
so
really like stifling their like creativity.
Okay, so to answer your question, let's start first and foremost. Housing not being a thing has nothing to do with the engine. The engine can handle housing just fine. The engine struggled a little bit with garrisons at the start, and then they updated the engine, and the engine did fine with garrisons. The World of Warcraft engine is actually not old at all. It is actually very new. It's a common misconception from players that the engine was made at classic level and it's just always been left like that. The World of Warcraft engine gets massively updated with every single expansion. So Blizzard actually does do. I have a friend that works for Blizzard. The amount of work that they do on that engine, it is phenomenal. The engine for World of Warcraft is a next level engine. It's a very, very good engine. The limitations that the engine have purely exist because they've never had a need for certain things. So the fact that there might be a limitation to housing is simply because there is no housing in World of Warcraft. So the engine team has never had a reason to upgrade for housing, because housing has never been a conversation that Blizzard have taken seriously. I'm pretty sure they could. If they wanted to, they could absolutely start taking it serious. The other thing is, so there's definitely never going to be a changing of the engine in World of Warcraft. That's never going to happen. People speak, I'm not saying you're doing it, because I am sort of now answering your question, but also a thousand other questions that I get about this. So I'm answering all of them at the same time. A lot of people seem to think changing an engine is kind of like changing a car. It really isn't. Changing an engine is more like changing your DNA. It's well, actually, DNA is probably a bit too hard to change. It's more like changing your face. You can't just wake up one day and go, fuck it, I need a new face. There we go. Everything is built on that engine. It is not compatible with Unreal Engine 5. It's not compatible with Unreal 4 or with Unity or with any other engine in the world. So any asset that you try to just copy over would not work on any other engine, because the assets were specifically designed for that engine. So if you wanted to do a new engine, you would have to get all of your artists to design the entire game from the ground up on a brand new engine. So every rock, every piece of grass, every tree, every character animation, every house, every brick, everything from the ground up. All of the rules need to be written exactly as it is in every single one of those sort of encounters that you have. Those rules have to also be created on this brand new engine, because like I said, every file that exists right now, that if you look at World of Warcraft as a collection of files, every single one of those files is incompatible with any other engine that exists right now in the gaming industry. It only works on the WoW engine. You're talking about a phenomenal undertaking to change engines. Like, oh, just make World of Warcraft on Unreal Engine 5, bro. It's like, well, actually...
Yeah, that's not gonna happen.
Yeah, it's impossible.
Yeah.
No. The thing
you
that
see,
people...
like, modders making, like, these videos with Unreal Engine 5. And
Yeah.
You think, oh, that looks cool. Why don't you just make it? I'm like, nah, that's almost impossible. That's just a fan kind of thing. But
Yeah.
remaking the whole engine is like a whole shtick that's not gonna happen. But then you think, when is the time when they're just gonna hit a wall and think, should we make World of Warcraft 2 or just make do?
World of Warcraft 2 is... Okay, so can I ask, what is your problem with the World of Warcraft engine right now? What do you dislike about the engine?
Well, for me, the most pet peeve, I suppose, is graphically wise, like the old zones mostly for me, but that's just like a minor thing like that, because like you can play the new expansions and go to Shadowlands, or even the new BFA zones and think, oh man, this place looks awesome, great. But then you go back to like BC, Wrath of Lich King, and you're like, oh, what is this Plasteel town? Where am I?
But that's not an engine thing, because
that's
the engine that made classic zones also made the Shadowlands zones, because they all exist on the same engine. That is just an artist thing. The Blizzard have never appointed artists to actually upgrade the old zones. This is what Final Fantasy is doing with their graphical overhaul. The reason, so this is where we get more into my gripes with World of Warcraft as a company, where I agree with the people that scream for a new engine, even though they don't always understand what the engine discussion is all about. The old zones don't look like shit because the engine has some kind of inherent limitation to it. The old zones look like shit because Blizzard is just purely lazy and they've never heard of a roadmap in their lives.
So basically, you think you do, but you don't, huh?
Well, Blizzard's idea of a roadmap is the next expansion, when in reality, that's not how roadmaps work. You usually have multiple roadmaps. You have a roadmap. So I'll use my company, my channel, as an example. The immediate roadmap for my channel is every Monday we have the Q&A. And we have 2 scripted videos per week. That's the plan, to eventually have 2 lore scripted videos per week. We then have 3 clips videos every single day on the clips channel, as well as a reaction video on the reaction channel, a shorts video on the shorts channel, and then 2 videos a week about other MMOs on the MMO channel. That's the immediate roadmap. The longer term roadmap, this is in a year from now, is a roadmap where we get another editor in. This leads to more content specifically made for Patreon, right? More shows on Patreon specifically made due to having another editor. More scripted videos on both the main channel and the MMO channel. But that's more of a long-term roadmap. Then my 5-year roadmap is making my own video game. Right? The timelines are just sort of pulled out of my ass because the game timeline is actually 10 years. But those are the different timelines that I have. And then I have an even longer timeline with different things in it. This is how timelines work. You usually have immediate timelines. So in World of Warcraft's case, this would be your roadmap for the next patch. Then you have your roadmap for the next expansion. Then you have your roadmap for 2 or 3 expansions. And then you have what I would call your macro roadmaps. This is where things like graphical overhauls and zone redesigns come in, where you have a roadmap that says, in the next 5 years, we want to upgrade every single zone and city in World of Warcraft to look like all of the other zones that we make brand new. And this means you start now. It's not going to be done by the next expansion, but it will be done in 5 years. This is where housing becomes a conversation. We want to have housing. We're not going to be able to do it in a single expansion roadmap, so we have to put it in the long-term roadmap. 5 years ago, almost 5 years ago, I believe exactly, Ian Azikostas sat at a BlizzCon and said, we would love to do housing, but, you know, in order to do housing, we're going to have to cut a raid tier. So I don't think people want that. So as soon as we can figure out how to do housing, we will absolutely do it. But it is a conversation that we're having internally every single expansion. And now, 5 years later, Ian gives the exact same fucking answer to that question. And I wish I could talk to Ian and explain to him, bro, you are never going to design housing in 2 years. Fucking never. It's not happening. Stop dreaming. If we're gonna wait for you guys to figure out the magic technology that gives you housing in 2 years, we'll never get housing. It's time for you to wake the fuck up and realize that unless you start today and you plan 5 years ahead, housing is not happening in World of Warcraft. And the same goes for graphic overhauls. Look at what FF14 is doing. Yoshi P and Squeenix will update every single zone individually. When the zone is ready, the zone will be released. This is an ongoing process. They realize that the game is going to look like shit for a while, because you'll go from a very good looking zone to a very shit looking zone to a very good looking zone again. But they're fine with it because they know the overall plan is to have all of the zones looking fantastic. And that's just how it is for them, right?
Yeah, I wish they kind of were more transparent about like their engine, like saying, okay guys, there are limitations, so let me just give you like the bullet points or the list of what we can and cannot do. And if you have any suggestions of what you want in the game, just give it to us, we'll look at it and tell you what we can and cannot put rather than saying,
the thing with engines... The thing with engines is there's really nothing that an engine can't do, especially in-house engines. So when you have your own engine engineers, any engine can do anything you want that engine to do. The question usually becomes, how much time do you have? How much money do you have? Because a lot of those engine upgrades will cost fuck tons of money. So a Disco option actually said it perfectly there. Engines have limitations, but it's never hard limitations. It's not like this is the limitation, it can't do this. Because you can absolutely have an engine do the whole world. So if you wanted, you could build the entire Earth to scale in an engine and have it be no loading screens. You'd burn out a bunch of graphics cards, and people will be lucky if they get 1 frame per second in your game, but the engine will do it. Like, it'll do it. No one will be able to play the game, and the game will be barely runnable, but technically the engine has done it. The engine has done what you wanted it to do. It's just not really optional. It's not optimal, right? So engines have limitations based on what you make those limitations to be and how much effort you're willing to put in and money you're willing to put in to actually lift those limitations. And then it usually boils down to optimization. The thing that I hear most from people when it comes to the engine conversation is about the combat log. Well, actually not the combat log, because that's the actual reason, but the lag that you experience in world bosses and stuff like that. And that is a combat log issue. It's not actually an engine issue. So I'm always confused when people sort of come up to me and say, you know, when is World of Warcraft getting a new engine? Because my answer is, or my follow-up question is usually why? Why does it need a new engine?
Yeah, that actually makes now a lot of sense. Like, I was mostly, like, always confused because I get, like, a lot of information from this place and that place saying, oh, the engine is outdated and old, and then you have, like, this person saying, oh, no, it's actually getting upgraded and all that stuff, or saying, oh, no, the old engine was removed a long time ago, you just didn't know about it. This is the new engine that you never heard about it, the 2.0 version, ooh. And then you're just like confused and like,
I mean,
okay, what is it?
There's nothing wrong with the WoW engine. The WoW engine. Also, if there's anyone watching right now, or even if the video makes it to YouTube, if there's anyone watching, if your complaint with the engine is the graphics for World of Warcraft, if World of Warcraft was on Unreal Engine 5, the graphics would look exactly the same. You want to know why? The graphics of World of Warcraft is a choice. It's their choice. They wanted the graphics to look this way. It's what we call stylized graphics. They've designed it to look that way. So even if the game was on Unreal Engine 5, you would get World of Warcraft looking exactly the same way as it does right now, because that's how they want the game to look. It is literally what it is. It's Blizzard's graphic style, as it were. So you'll never get a WoW that looks like ESO or that looks realistic like Cyberpunk or some shit like that, because Blizzard didn't want that. That's not what they went for. A good example of this is I actually spent some time talking to Terran Gregory. This was last year or the year before. We were sort of hanging out with Terran Gregory on Discord, and Terran explained to us that the reason for the running animations in World of Warcraft is because World of Warcraft does not use mocap. It's one of the few games in the world that does not employ motion capture. The running animations in World of Warcraft is physically done by the animators. So they design it to look that cartoony. When an orc runs, it's designed to run that way because that's what they wanted. They wanted to make it look like a more cartoony, sort of comical way of running. That's why humans run the way that they run. Sadly, the only answer I have for you there is the WoW engine is perfectly fine. It can do anything Blizzard sets their mind to. They just have to set their mind to it. That's basically it.
So it just boils down to the human factor rather than the engine factor.
Yeah, WoW is like Blizzard have become lazy. They spend so much time at the top believing that they can't be replaced, that things like housing, the question for them there became, what's the point? You know, we are the number one MMO in the market. We don't have housing.
The old Rockstar syndrome.
Yeah, you know, we don't have housing and we're still the number one. Why would we spend time and money making a housing system when we could just fucking not and we're still the number one MMO? It's the same reason why World of Warcraft has almost no casual content, bar recycled content that hardcore players have already done. So casual players spend most of their time in old raids and dungeons that is no longer current, and they call that content, right? Blizzard is now waking up and realizing that the more casual games is overtaking them. Like, people are opting out of WoW, moving to things like Final Fantasy XIV, moving to things like ESO, like Guild Wars, that is just more casual friendly, with more content that an actual casual would want to play. It's actually one of the reasons I think Ashes of Creation is going to bomb. And I don't think it's not going to exist because they themselves know that their game isn't going to be the largest MMO in the market. But I actually think a lot of people are going to log into Ashes of Creation and very quickly realize this is not what I thought it was going to be. When you realize that this is an incredibly hardcore MMO that is meant for people that don't have jobs. Ultimately, those are the only people that can play the game.
Yeah, when I saw the Ashes of Creation, mostly the things they were talking about was like crafting and, making towns and electing people and like, wait a minute. I saw this in Terra Online and that game sucked ass. Come on, no.
But it's a game for specific people, right? It's a game for a very hardcore audience that when they die, they have the opportunity to lose weapons, but that also means if I kill someone, I can loot their weapons, right? When I die, I lose XP, but also if I kill someone else, they lose XP, right? It's that mindset. there's a small amount of people that like it that way, but there are people that like it that way, and that's what they're sort of going for. I think like Steven Sharif and his team were sort of stupid to spend $30 million fucking dollars on a game that is probably gonna be played by like 100 to 200,000 people at best. And even then, I think that might be a bit of an ambitious number. But we'll see. You know, maybe they prove me wrong. Maybe people were always hoping for this really stupidly hardcore fucking game. And it just turns out that, you know, Dark Age of Camelot, EverQuest, and Lineage 2 just too outdated for people to play. But people always actually wanted to play that. We'll see, right?
Indeed. I'm just glad that when I made the switch from WoW to FF14, I'm glad that I don't have to do a single world quest and, you know, have the urge to smash my head against the wall, knowing that I have to hunt another goddamn turtle, because that was the moment that really drove me off the edge. I was just doing one of those world quests, and the epiphany struck me like a lightning of Zeus, and I just told myself, what the hell am I doing? This isn't fun.
No, I have to agree with you. I think world quests have a place, but I think World of Warcraft relies on world quests way too much.
It was fine in Legion, but they kind of a little bit overdone it too much. They would thought, oh, this is successful. Let's up it a little bit notch, just like a little bit. And then they had like 1,000, and it was like, wow, come on, man.
Yeah. No, I know exactly what you mean. Did you want to add anything else before I give another person a shot, or was that your only question?
Let's see. Well, the last thing I can just chime in, let's say, if I wanted a boob slider in World of Warcraft and they said it's gonna, you know, not happen because of the engine problem, I'm gonna flip my shit.
The boob slider isn't gonna happen because that's not what WoW is all about. And personally, I don't mind it. I think all the degenerate fucks that need boob sliders need to realize that if you go to www.pornhub.com, you can basically get all the boob sliders you fucking want. Like you go double D, triple D, whatever the fuck you want.
You don't understand the aesthetics. I must have them.
There are anime fucking videos on Pornhub that will give you everything you need. You don't need boob sliders in the fucking game. Come on, Jesus, man. Guys, you can't be this much virgin.
Shaking.
Like,
just a little bit.
How can you be such a virgin, though? Not just you. I'm talking to chat here. Like, oh my god, I need to see big boobies in the game. Like, dude, just have Pornhub on your second monitor. Easy life. If you need to see boobies, just do that. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Anyways, man, dude, really appreciate the question. Thank you so much. I hope to speak to you again soon.
Oh yeah, of course. Thank you for answering my questions and clarifying the whole engine thing. It was like a really great eye-opener, so to speak. But yes, I appreciate taking the time and really like your videos, so keep pumping out that content. And I'll see you next time, man.
Thank you very much, man. Take care of yourself. Peace.